going to read is called What Will Float? There is a lot of different things that float and what sink above water. And it's something that we're going to test out today and find out. So I'm going to read you guys this story. What will float? What will sink? What will float? Will a big rock sink? Will a little rock sink? Here is an apple. Here is a potato. They are nearly the same size. Will they float or sink? Here's the answers, but I covered them up since we're going to do our own little experiment because I just wanted you guys to take a little guess maybe. Here is a big log. Will it float? Here's a little nail. Will it float? Here's a table tennis ball, like a ping pong ball, in case any of you guys have ever heard of it as a ping pong ball. It's a ping pong ball. Here is a golf ball. They are both the same size. Will they float or sink?
Who knows the size of sports?
Here's an apple with holes in it. Will it float? Here's a potato with holes in it. Will it sink? Here's a ball of modeling clay. Will it float? I don't know. I covered it. What happens if the clay boat has holes in it? Here is some foil. Will it float or sink? Can we make the foil float? A foil boat will float. That kind of is hard to say. Foil boat will float. And now that we've read the story, we are going to test it for real. Some of those objects I don't have, like an apple with holes in it, that's hard to buy. You can't really buy it. And it's hard to put holes into an apple. But I do have an apple that I will test. And a few other things. I'm going to write them on this chart and we're going to make predictions.
There's water in there.
There is water in there.
There's a yes chart and a no chart.
There is.
I can't see.
There is. Now I'm going to pull out some things that I have in this bag. First, we have a table tennis ball. All right. And I want you to raise your hand if you think this tennis ball will float. Raise your hand and I will count. I will say your names so that you can put them down. Make sure you have your hands raised. If you think it's going to float, raise your hands high. Okay, let's see. I'll just count you guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13 of us think that it will float. 13. Tennis ball. Now the words on this chart say object, predictions, and we found out. 13 of us said no. So since there are 20 of us, I have a feeling that 7 or 6 of us will say no because we have one asleep. So raise your hand if you think that the tennis ball will not float. Make sure if you haven't voted yet, you have to vote now. So we've got, you can't vote twice. We have 1, you already voted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is exactly what I was looking for. We have 6. You guys ready to find out right now?
Yeah.
Table tennis ball. Let's find out. So were the majority of us right? We were right. We found out that yes, it does float. Let's go to the next object.
A feather will float. A feather will float. It will.
A feather. Do we think the feather is going to float?
No.
No, yes.
Let me tell
I want you to raise your hand if you think the feather is going to float. Raise them high to the sky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Melanie, is your hand raised? 17 people think it's going to float. That is a large
What about me?
number. I counted you. Put your hand down, please. 17 is a large number. Raise your hand if you think it's not going to float. We've got 1, 2. 2 people think it's not going to float. That's okay. We're all entitled to our own opinions, and that's great. That's
It
the
is
best
gonna float.
That's the best thing about life. Hold on. I'm going to ask questions about a few more things. I think I'm going to ask about them first before I test them all. What about this piece of cork? Do you guys know what a cork is?
A cork, a long time ago, they used to use those as for water and clog them so the water or the beer doesn't fall out.
Correct. What about you, Haley? How do you have it?
They go in wine.
They go in line. They do. They do. All right, so raise your hands high if you think this is going to float. All right. When I point to you, you can put your hand down, all right? So go ahead and make sure you're looking at me. I want, raise your hands high if you, sit crisscross applesauce, please. And raise your hands high if you think that this cork will float. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Did I count you, Kira? 12. Don't put your hand up in the middle of it, okay? 12.
You didn't do me, Mrs.
I'm pretty sure I did. Raise your hand if you think it will not float. All right. Put your hands down after I point to you, okay? Put them up. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 plus 12 is 19. See, I counted everyone. We've got 12 yeses and 7 nos. What could it be? I'm going to do one more thing and then we'll test it. We'll test
A
few
rock.
things.
Marble.
This is a marble, which is kind of like a rock. Who thinks this will sink? Raise them high. Wow, do I see anyone that's not? Let me ask a new question. Raise your hand if you think it will not sink. Raise your hand if you think it's going to float. Cameron, the rule is you can only vote once, okay? If you vote that it'll float, you do not think it's going to sink. Don't base it on everyone else. Just raise your hand if you think it will sink.
It will.
All right, raise your hand if you think it'll float. I'm going to count those. I've got 1. Nicholas, is your hand raised? 2.
Mason didn't raise his hand for it. Reagan, you did it twice. No, I didn't.
Please sit down. Mason, face me. Which one do you think it's going to be?
Sink.
Float or sink? All right, so we've got 2 for float. Reagan and Nicholas think it's going to float. Do anyone else think it's going to float?
No.
All right, we've got 2 for float. And that means we've got 17. Sorry.
Let's just do that.
Sorry, I mixed those up. Two of us think that it will float, and 17 of us think that it won't float. So I'm going to go ahead and test these 3 things all at once. All right, this is going to be fun. So we've got the feather, we've got the cork, and we've got the marble. Here it comes.
Oh.